Recording. Okay, and now I'm gonna give the floor to Samah.
Thank you so much, Davia, for the introduction. I'm sorry, we are in the office. It's an open space, so there will be some noise. So if you can't hear clearly, please let us know and we will do our best. We cannot really mute the background noise at this stage, but please bear with us. So thank you so much. As Tavia was saying, today we want to talk about cultural competency in the Canadian workplace. The presentation is like half an hour, 40 minutes maybe. Please feel free to engage, ask questions, or if you have any question and answer, we can have a question and answer session at the end, or you can add your questions in the chat box and Tavia will help us share them, and then maybe we can have a discussion about that. So thank you so much for having me today. It's cultural competency is really important. You all came here from different cultures, and it's really important for you to accommodate and adapt to the Canadian culture and workplace. We've been doing things, we've been successful somewhere else, and now we're here. So how can we be more culturally competent? This is the discussion that we're going to have today. We are having today. So I think I will start by asking you the question of what is culture. Generally, it's an interactive session. So if you would like to answer, or I can have a discussion. So what do you think is a culture? Anybody would like to share?
Let me share. Hello, everyone.
Okay, hi.
My name is Shamil. I think culture is the people of a definite country.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. So the culture is as you're saying, it is people coming from different countries or different cultures. I want to share with you this definition. If you Google what is culture, there will be around 400 different definitions. But this one I like specifically because it talks about certain things that I want you to be mindful of. First, it's the unconscious pattern of behavior and beliefs that are common to a person, nation, or organization. This is talking about that it's behavior that is a result of belief or value system that you have. So if it is what you see, but it's also what you don't see. It's unconscious. That means people are not deliberately doing things the way they're doing it because they have a plan in mind. They're doing this unconsciously. So they're doing it because they are used to do it in their own culture. And this is really important to pay attention to. So you think you are acting normal when you are in your own culture. The minute that you go to another culture, then what it was normal to you might not be normal in that particular culture. You are working with a concept called cultural cruise control, which you're doing things without thinking about them. You're doing them automatically. So if you're used to greeting people by kissing them on the cheek twice, you still do that. But some cultures will kiss only once or 3 times. Some cultures do not kiss, but hug. Some cultures shake hands. So what is normal in one culture might be not normal in other cultures. And that's what we have to be conscious of. Culture is like an onion in the sense that it is layers and layers and layers. It's easier to peel the outside layers, like whatever you see, clothes, food, maybe language, maybe accent, but it's the deeper you go, the harder it is to peel. So the inside of the onion or inside of the culture would be the belief and value systems that are harder to peel. Also, culture is like a fish in a pond. It's your lifestyle. You know, when we talk about someone who's out of their comfort zone or out of their culture, we say a fish outside the water. That means that they don't have the tools to deal with the surrounding the same way and an easy and comfortable way that they used to when it's their own culture. Also, we refer to culture as a lens. You see culture from your own lens. You see it through your own set of values and set of beliefs. So maybe you see the same thing, but you come from two different cultures. You interpret it differently. It's the same action, the same picture, the same incident, but you would interpret it in different ways. So for example, if you see someone shouting in one culture, that might be normal for you. If someone is shouting to another person, that's their way of behavior. Maybe they're expressive. Maybe the regular cultural habit is that people talk with passion. So that's normal to you, but it might be awkward or insulting or not normal to someone from a different culture. So we see things through our own culture. So I like to share with you the culture iceberg model, because this is an interpretation of what cultures. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the iceberg. Maybe it's your first introduction to snow and cold weather here. But the iceberg is a structure where you see only the top part of it. You see just a small part of the iceberg. The rest of it is inside the water. So the space that you see is only a small part, but it is built on all what's inside the water. So the top part is an indication of the surface culture of what you see as a representation of culture, but what's deep is the value system. So if you want to look at it this way, and you look at what you see from the culture, so you see food, festivals, holidays, music, games, language, literature, art, fashion, this is all you see. You see someone wearing a certain fashion, so you say they come from that particular culture. But what you don't really see, and it's very important, is what's inside. The communication styles and rules. How do they do eye contact? How's their body language? What's their way of touching? The tone of voice. Do they use expressive voice or more lower voice? You don't know the notion of courtesy, friendship. How is leadership is happening in that culture? What's beautiful in that culture? Some cultures see darker skin as beautiful. Some cultures see fair skin as more beautiful, thin or fat, tall or short. These are all notions that you don't see, but they reflect on your behavior. What's the concept of time? What's the concept of fairness and justice? What's the attitude towards certain concepts? What's the approaches to religion, marriage, raising children, decision-making, problem solvers? These are all what really is reflected in what you see. And it's important to think that. So when we see someone doing something, it's not how they're doing it, but the more important question is why they're doing it. And culture is layers of cultures. So there is the universal culture, which can be assumed. We are all human beings. We all have certain cultural values as human beings. But then the focus of today is the different culture. You come from Nigeria, I come from Egypt, someone else comes from China. So how are things happening in each of those cultures? And then comes the individual culture, which we have to take into account. So if someone is human, is a woman that come from Egypt, for example, no two people who have the same universal culture or ethnic culture will be the same. Of course, they will be two individuals that have different cultures. So we are built up of all of these layers of culture. And it's important, I'm talking about that because this is making us think and realize how cultures are different and how can they impact our behavior and our attitude towards things. So I want to share with you this video, and I don't know if it will share, but Tavia, you can tell me if you can hear the voice, and if not, can you still see it?
Yes, I can see the screen.
The screen of the
Yeah,
YouTube?
I can see it, yes.
Okay, so let's see if it will, you can hear it as well. The internet won't be the best. Okay, sorry, I think I have it into, can you hear it?
No, we cannot hear the volume there. Probably you can stop share your screen and click the share again, and this time
Okay.
click share the computer audio.
So I will stop sharing, and then I will
It
I
should be
share.
on the bottom of the screen.
Not sure.
You can
I'll
click the
stop
link
share.
again. Mhm.
Okay, so I will, what do I need to do? I will, if I share and I will say advanced sharing options, no?
When you are sharing in the screen on the bottom, because you can pick which page you want to share.
Yes,
On the
share
bottom is
sound.
share sound. Yeah, click
Okay,
that one.
thank you so much. Okay, I've seen that now. Would that work now? Let's see.
Yeah, we can have a try.
Can you hear it?
No, I cannot still.
So I think what we could do is we can share this with the group afterwards.
Yeah, sure. We're gonna
Okay.
send a follow-up email after this presentation, so we can
Okay.
put that in, we do
So we go
individually.
back to here. Okay,
Yeah,
can you
for
see
sure.
my presentation?
Yeah,
Excellent.
we can see.
So what we all come from different cultures, and when we come here, we come to Canada, and Canada it has a diversity in cultures. We have lots and lots of cultures in one city. The radio station is broadcasting in 33 different languages. So it's a mosaic of cultures. And what we need to do is to bring our own culture, but to fit within the overall mosaic of the Canadian culture. And the first step to do that is to be aware that the way we do things and our culture needs to adapt and to accommodate into the mosaic of Canadian cultures. So what are the challenges that we face when we try to adapt? So I want to go through them one by one. We have biases, of course. It's a preference. We prefer to deal with people from certain cultures and not to deal with people from other cultures. So we have biases, and it's unconscious bias. We feel like we are more comfortable dealing with my culture or my ethnic group versus other ethnic groups. We have stereotypes, and the way we stereotype people, if we simplify pictures in our head and we group people together. So we say Canadians or Egyptians or Asian people or African people or people from this country or that country. And when we have this picture in our mind, we group people in a way that results in stereotyping. And the danger of that is that we might be judging one person and reflecting that on the other culture. So when you come to Canada and you had a disagreement, or you met someone who didn't treat you right, who comes from an Asian culture, let's say China, then you would say all Asians are bad, or all Egyptians are this way or the other. So the stereotyping hinders our understanding of other cultures. Then there is the ethnocentrism, which is a concept that makes us evaluate others according to our own culture. So we see what is right or wrong according to our culture. So if I do that in my culture, then it is right. And if you do it in another way, then it's wrong. And that is very harmful, because it makes me stick to my own rules and I'm not open to other people's own view. Then there is the discrimination, which is the most dangerous. These three biases, stereotyping and ethnocentrism, is my belief, is what I think. But now I can also act according to that. Is I can unfairly treat individuals based on their culture. So for example, if I hired someone from Nigeria and this person stole my money, for example, then I would say is all Nigerians are thieves, for example, and this discrimination would be that I will never hire anybody from Nigeria again. So I don't only believe in the wrong idea, but also I'm acting according to my wrong belief. And those are challenges. So we have to be conscious and aware that our minds are playing those tricks on us. So how cultures affect behavior? What I think is going to be reflected on how I behave. And maybe I won't show videos again. So when I ask you this question and I share with you and I say, complete the sentence, and I say, people from Africa are, can you complete the sentence? Any ideas?
Different.
Different. That's a good point. So I think, thank you for sharing, but I think the question is wrong in the first place because Africa is lots of countries and lots of cultures. So when we group things together in that way, we're stereotyping. So when we say people from the Middle East, or all Muslims, or all Jewish people, or all this culture, then we're asking the wrong question because it's really hard to identify people as in that stereotyping sense. One of the things that we have to be also mindful when we are treating people from different cultures is equally or equity. Now, equally means I'm giving people the same opportunity. I'm sharing the same thing. So if I'm saying I'm giving the same test to different people, that's equally. But equity is treating them according to their own skill set. So if I come here, and that's why we're helping employers in the Canadian market by developing hiring solutions for international people, because English might not be your first language, and it is unfair to have a test that will be higher level of English or someone who's an English native speaker and someone who's not English native speaker to be hired to an engineering job, because there's no equity. We have to treat people differently. So maybe what we need to do is to develop a hiring solution that tests your technical skill sets and not just stop at the equal opportunities in that sense. When I ask you this question, a father, this is a quiz. Let's see if you have an answer for that. A father and his son are in a car accident. The father dies at the scene and the son, badly injured, is rushed to the hospital. In the operating room, the surgeon looks at the boy and says, I can't operate on this boy. He is my son. Who is the person speaking, do you think?
Might be the mom.
Okay, thank you for sharing. So it is, sorry. I need to go back. So it is the mom in this sense. Yes, absolutely. But what happens that if you come from a culture that women are not surgeons, it doesn't come to your mind that it's a mom. You might be thinking of that it's the neighbor who consider the boy as their son, because you come from a culture that values neighborhood and values human ties. You might think that it's the grandfather. You might think that it's the other father if there are a couple same-sex marriage. So whatever your answer is a reflection of where you come from, and it's a reflection of the culture. So you might have the same situation, but the answers are different because people come from different cultures. Ethnocentrism is looking at the same picture, but judging it according to your own culture. So if you come from a conservative culture, a religious conservative culture, you will see that the veiled person on the left is the right dress code. This was in the Olympics. And you see that the other person on the right is not wearing the proper dress code. But if you come from the Western culture, you'll see that the person is on the left now is wearing the proper dress code for the game, and the person is on the right side is not wearing doing it properly. So it depends on where you're coming from. You're judging people according to your own values, according to your own system. And that's what we have to be aware of. Culture shock. I like to share that with newcomers because we all pass through culture shock when we move from one culture to the other. And the culture shock goes through emotions. You go through certain emotions and you go through certain lengths of time. And the curve is like that. So you start with the honeymoon. When you come to Canada, oh, it's the best place. I made the right choice. It's a wonderful place. People are nice. I can find jobs easily. This is an amazing life. But what happens after that is you go through culture shock. Things are not as rosy as you think they are. And there is a dip. Most people go through that. Then you start adjusting, you start finding the right place. Maybe you come thinking that you will find this job, but now because it's different in Canada, you start adapting and adjusting to another job. And then comes the last stage, which is the, I need to see it in that way. And the adaptation and accommodating. So we all go through that curve. It might take weeks, might take months, might take hopefully not years, but we all go through that. The good news is that you will go back to the curve will go up again and you'll be able to accommodate and consider Canada home and be happy again. But it's really important to be aware that this will happen. And when you are in the bottom curve, you know that it's going to go up. And the way that the slope you need to go up faster is by accommodating to different cultures. Another thing that I want to discuss with you here as newcomers, what happens is that people in trying to find job are assessed on two different types of skills, technical skills and soft skills. We are all, I'm trying to get that up. Okay, so we're all going to be assessed in terms of technical skills and soft skills. Technical skills are the skills that come with the job. So if you're an engineer, if you're an instructor, if you're a construction worker, if you are an IT person, those are all technical skills. But soft skills are the skills that are not necessarily certified or taught in schools. They are like leadership skills, teamwork skills, presentation skills, all of that. You come from a culture usually that value technical skills more than soft skills. So what happens in some of the cultures is that the relative weight would be much higher in terms of technical skills than soft skills. Here in Canada, the relative weight is 50-50. So when you come to Canada, even if you are the best doctor, even if you are the best engineer, unless you are a great communicator, a good team leader, and great in teamwork, you won't be able to get the jobs that you want to get. So instead of improving on your technical skills, one of the things that we advise newcomers is work on your soft skills, because this is the way to go. The starting point is you being here and attending all these sessions that we have with the St. John Newcomer Center about talking about different soft skills, and that's really important. I'm not talking about that. So sometimes what worked for you in your home country may not work for you here. And this is really important. We come saying, I was extremely successful, so now I'm not that successful here. Yes, because what is considered success in one culture might not be considered success here. So you have to adapt and understand how the Canadian workplace culture is and what you need to do to be successful here. So cultural competency is what we're trying for you to gain. It's a journey. It's a skill set. It's like listening skills, writing skills. It's another skill. So you need to accumulate that and be good at it. So the model starts with that. The way to acquire it is first awareness. You know that your own culture is not the only culture. There are other cultures. So your first starting point is what we are doing right now. understanding and being mindful that there are other cultures, and you have to be aware of that. The next step is to have attitude towards different culture. Is to understand that your culture is not the right culture. There are other cultures that are doing things in different ways, and I have to see them, respect them, and understand why they do the things they are doing. Then knowledge of different culture. You come to the Canadian culture, you need to understand about the Canadian culture. You are working with Nigerian colleagues, you need to understand that culture. Your boss is from Egypt, you need to understand that culture, and so on. Then you have to gain cross-cultural skills. And the way to gain the skills is by being culturally mindful. You know, the yoga, you do yoga for the body or the soul. A culture mindfulness is yoga for the understanding of the cultures, of your own sense, where you are, and how can you be aware. Doing this through listening, understanding, and asking the right questions. And I always say, ask to understand, not ask to judge. So ask questions. If you don't understand why people do these things, ask them. If your boss says that you're not doing a good job, then understand how should it be done here, and so on. So I wanted to share with you before we end few things about to consider in the workplace. So the first thing is the communication pattern. This is really important because we all communicate and we're great at it, but the way you communicate differs from one culture to the other. So there is pattern one, which is you speak and then you pause, you wait for a bit, and then someone else speaks. So there is a period of silence between what you're saying and the other person responding. There is another pattern, which is as soon as you finish what you're saying, someone else has answered your question. And there is another pattern that is people speak on top of one another. The last pattern appreciates interruptions and finishing each other's sentences. So if you're speaking, someone else can speak at the same time, and in this culture, it's okay to do that. Nobody will be offended. But if you come from this culture and you go to culture one, then it is. Can you hold on for a minute, please? Thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that. And at the meantime, since we're waiting for Samah, we're probably okay. Yeah,
I'm back. Sorry.
you're back. That's so quick.
Okay. So if you come from one culture and you are speaking with a culture from a different background, they might consider you rude. You might consider your interruptions are terrible, or you might not understand why people are not speaking up because you're not giving them a chance to speak. You're just speaking all the time and you're not stopping for them to speak back. So understanding the cultural communication pattern is really important for newcomers here, especially in the Canadian workplace. When you speak to someone, ask them, I come from this culture and it's okay to interrupt. Do you consider interruptions or asking too many questions rude here? And understand why and how should you be able to communicate in a better way. Personal space. This is a big thing in the Canadian workspace. And we say in Canada, if you put your hands out there and you move it around, this is your personal space. So your personal space, like an invisible bubble that surrounds you, people should not invade that space. So if you come from a culture that has a smaller personal space, then people stand next to one another, they hug each other or they touch each other. But sometimes you talk to a culture that appreciate much larger personal space. So it's really important to pay attention to that because this is unconscious. Nobody will tell you stay out of my personal space unless they're very rude. We hope not. But it's really important to understand that in the workplace. Think free. I don't know how long are you here, but this is a concept that is really, really important in the Canadian workplace. And we find lots of newcomers when they come, they don't know that we're scent free. Scent free is you don't put perfume or anything that smells. in the workplace, in the public places, in the hospital, at schools, at the university, and it's really important. We used to put perfumes in other culture, and it's okay. Here, it's not okay. And it is very serious because people have allergies, and especially in the workplace. So if you come putting perfume to work every day, people might not tell you anything, but you are not fitting in properly because you are doing something against the culture here, and it's not appreciated. People will not appreciate that. Small talks is a big thing in the Canadian market. So I know sometimes in other cultures, people do not engage in small talks, but in Canada, we do that. So if you meet people for the first time anywhere, especially in the workplace, when you're not in meetings outside in the corridors or the cafeteria, small talks work well. So you talk about the weather, you talk about a bit of experience. Do not go too personal or ask personal questions, but ask about trips, ask about the weather, ask about the children, ask about work style. So these are things that you can talk about, and this is very popular. So if people ask you that, be comfortable to share, not too personal information, of course, but if you are in a place, start that, engage that. I know in some cultures, people who do not know each other do not engage in small talks, but here it's appreciated and we do that. One of the most important thing is body language. Non-verbal communication, which is body language, your tone of voice, anything that is communicating something that is not spelled into words. Body language is around, or non-verbal communication is around 93% of all communication. So, so you're saying much more than what you're actually saying in words. So the way that you stand, your dress code, the way that you sit, the way that you talk to someone, the way that you lean forward or lean backward, these are all body language that says things about you. In some cultures, it might be appreciated. In other cultures, it might not be. So, for example, if you come from a culture that appreciates informality and coming to work in shorts or slippers or things like that, this might reflect badly on you in the workplace in Canada. So ask questions about what is expected in terms of dress code, in terms of body language. What should I do with that? How can I express that? If you come from a culture that is that appreciates and promote emotional expression, like you can have loud voices, you can speak, you can shout, you can do that, and it is an expression of your culture. Here, it's not appreciated. The expectations are different. So these are the things that we have to understand and appreciate here in different cultures. And I just want to end with saying a multicultural society does not reject the culture of the other, but is prepared to listen, to see, to dialogue, and in the final analysis, to possibly accept the other cultures without compromising its own. We are living in a multicultural society. So Canada appreciates you and your culture. And the idea is that you should not let go of your own culture. You should keep your own culture, but accommodate and respect other cultures and be part of the Canadian cultural mosaic. Thank you so much. I will stop sharing here, and we are open to questions and answers.